Good morning, April. Emma's cheerful voice echoes through the sunlit kitchen. As I hurriedly prepare breakfast, I turn around. As usual, Emma walks into the kitchen in her pink pajamas, rubbing her sleepy eyes. Outside the window, the streets of Maplewood are beginning to show their autumn colors. Good morning, Emma. We're having blueberry pancakes for breakfast today.
Yay!
My favorite. Emma's smile adds color to this busy morning scene. On the table, Michael's coffee is already set out. His breakfast schedule has become irregular lately. He says he's swamped with important projects, but his unsettled demeanor concerns me. His expression clouds whenever he checks his phone, and he's been coming home late at night. My work at Northwestern Memorial Hospital is far from easy. As a pediatrician, I face critical decisions daily. Still, I never miss picking up and dropping off Emma at daycare. It has become an integral part of my life. Meanwhile, my sister Caitlin makes excuses about having irregular hours as a freelancer, but lately, she's been prioritizing her own schedule over childcare. It's important to focus on your career while you're young. Caitlin still has plenty of opportunities ahead of her. Our parents speak in unison to defend my sister. Their doting on her hasn't changed since childhood. They probably sympathize with her because of her divorce. However, that shouldn't come at Emma's expense. The morning is quiet in this upscale neighborhood. My Tesla Model Y drives down the tree-lined street where leaves are beginning to turn red. In the rearview mirror, I can see Emma in the back seat, looking at her Bright Horizons picture book. Sometimes I think this scene looks just like a real mother and daughter. It's a happy illusion, but also somehow a warning. April, are you picking me up today too? Of course. But what did Mommy say? Mommy said she has work. She said she'll be late again. Again? The same answer as yesterday and the day before. Last week it was lunch with friends, and before that, hair salon. The reasons vary, but the result is the same. Every time I see Emma's lonely expression, my heart aches. In the evening, just as the hospital conference ended, I got a call from my sister. I could hear people talking and the sound of suitcase wheels rolling on the floor in the background. Sorry, I have a favor to ask. Her voice had that familiar wheedling tone, like all those times since childhood when she'd come to her big sister for help. I got a sudden work assignment. Could you watch Emma for about a week? I have to go meet a client for a design project. What? A whole week? It's really important. I absolutely can't get out of it. Please? I could hear her hastily packing things on the other end of the line. What about Mom and Dad? Couldn't they watch Emma? Mom and Dad have plans too. They have appointments with friends. It was an odd coincidence. Our parents have been hard to reach lately too. They haven't been showing up for Sunday brunch either. Something feels off. Sorry, but could you be my babysitter for a week? Thanks. She hung up after saying that. Though bewildered by such a sudden request, I started preparing to pick up Emma. I had received a message from my husband Michael saying he would be working overtime again. He said he had an important business meeting at his office on Michigan Avenue. Something doesn't feel right. The sense of unease among family members deepens like the autumn twilight. But when I think of Emma's innocent smile, that anxiety fades away. Surely it will be just another ordinary week. Or so I thought. On the morning of the third day after my sister's departure, Chicago's sky hung heavy with a deep leaden color. The cold wind rattled the windows, as if announcing the arrival of an early cold snap. "Are we going to Disneyland today?" Emma suddenly asked while eating her breakfast cereal. Her innocent question made me set down my coffee cup and tilt my head. The coffee I had made sweeter than usual suddenly tasted bitter. "Disneyland? You have daycare today." "But Mommy said so." "She said, I'll take you to Disneyland soon." A sense of unease ran down my spine. Caitlin was supposed to be away for work. Just last night, she had sent a message saying she was running late with an important client meeting. Emma continued innocently scooping up her cereal with her spoon. "Daddy, Grandma, and Grandpa are coming too. She said we're all going together. She told me to keep it a secret." "But I told you." In that moment, something froze inside me. Michael had indeed come home late all 3 nights. I'd sensed him coming home in the middle of the night, but he was already gone for work by morning. Both parents weren't answering their phones. Their message-read receipts weren't showing up either. Though I'd found it strange, I blamed it on their busy schedules. I'd made the convenient assumption that they might be having trouble with their smartphones due to their age. On my way to the hospital, anxiety gnaws at my heart. While driving, I check my phone screen repeatedly. Still no contact. Only a brief message from Michael saying he's in an important meeting. With consecutive emergency room night shifts, I couldn't help but worry. After handling 2 emergency surgeries since morning, I hadn't even had time for lunch. The pediatric ward at Northwestern Memorial Hospital was busy as usual. Change IVs. Check charts. Give instructions to residents. The routine that should have been familiar somehow felt surreal. Early afternoon, after finishing surgery and returning to the changing room, my phone rang. It was from the Chicago Police Department. My hand trembled slightly as I took the phone from my white coat pocket. "Mrs. Watson? This is April Watson?" "Yes, that's me. I'm very sorry to have to tell you this." The officer's voice broke for a moment. That moment felt like an eternity. The fluorescent lights in the changing room seemed unnaturally bright. "Your sister Caitlin Brown has been in an accident. Your husband Michael Watson and your parents Robert and Mary Brown were also in the vehicle." My vision blurred. I leaned against the locker, feeling all strength leave my body. A stethoscope hanging on the adjacent locker fell to the floor with a dull thud. The location is on the interstate highway in Indiana. All 4 have been transported to the local trauma center. About an hour has passed since the accident occurred. Indiana. My sister was supposed to be away for work. My parents were supposed to have brunch plans with friends. My husband was supposed to have an important business meeting. Yet why were all 4 in the same car? Why on an Indiana highway? Questions kept surfacing. The details of the accident are still under investigation, but it appears the vehicle hit a guardrail and rolled over. Fortunately, all 4 are conscious. "It seems your husband was driving." I stared at the schedule on my desk. Afternoon outpatient consultations. Night shift. 3 scheduled surgeries. Everything would need to be cancelled. But more than that, various pieces were connecting in my mind. Emma's words. Disneyland. Everyone going out together. My husband's overtime. My sister's work. My parents' absence. All the strange feelings were converging into one truth. And that truth was far beyond what I could have imagined. Please, give me the address of the trauma center." My voice was shaking. Though I tried desperately to maintain composure, I could feel something crumbling inside my chest. While noting down the address, I explained the situation to Sarah, the head nurse, and requested emergency leave. As a longtime colleague, she immediately helped adjust the remaining schedule. "April, I'll explain to the patients' families. You need to go." Sarah's kind voice brought tears to my eyes. Before leaving the hospital, I called the daycare. I needed to pick up Emma early. But what should I tell her? How do you explain this situation to a 3-year-old? Using the phrase, family emergency, felt ironically literal, bringing a bitter smile to my face. The 3-hour drive to Indiana. Emma slept in the back seat while I gripped the steering wheel desperately. As we left Chicago and crossed the Indiana border, it began to rain. The sound of rain hitting the windshield seemed to synchronize with my racing heartbeat. With each sweep of the wipers, reality seemed to distort a little more. When we arrived at the trauma center, dusk was already falling. Red ambulance lights reflected in the parking lot puddles. Holding Emma's hand, we walked down the white corridors. The smell of disinfectant carried an unfamiliar weight. My parents were receiving treatment for minor injuries. My husband was undergoing tests. In the hospital room, my sister lay in bed with bandages, looking at me. Her eyes held indescribable regret and guilt. Only the dripping sound of the floor marked the heavy silence. Michael and I, for 2 years. I'm so sorry. Those words froze the air in the hospital room. My fingers tightened around Emma's hand. It was the moment I understood everything. The strange glances at the Christmas party. The unnatural weekend outings. Our parents' silence knowing the circumstances. All the pieces connected with cruel clarity. The smell of disinfectant and occasional beeping of medical equipment. This environment, which should have been familiar to me as a doctor, now felt bizarre. Michael's condition is stable. He has full-body bruising and a mild concussion, but he should be fully conscious tomorrow. The CT scan shows no major abnormalities. I nodded emotionlessly at the attending physician's words. As a doctor, I understood the meaning of that diagnosis. But as a wife, I wasn't yet prepared to process those words. I wondered how I appeared in the eyes of the attending physician, my colleague. Me, a doctor, a betrayed wife, and a victim. "Dr. Watson, I understand how you must feel. If needed, we can arrange counseling. I'm fine. Thank you." While answering in a controlled voice, I desperately tried to suppress the wave of emotions rising within me. The faces of my colleagues at Northwestern Memorial flashed through my mind. By tomorrow, this incident would be known throughout the hospital. Emma is sleeping in the hospital's childcare facility. The facility for shift-working medical staff accommodated us even in this emergency. The childcare worker kindly said, "We'll take good care of her until her mother comes." At those words, I had to close my eyes. Emma's real mother was now lying in a hospital room on a different floor. I took out the drawing Emma had made this morning from my white coat pocket. It showed the whole family holding hands. I wasn't in it. Everything had been planned. The trip to Disneyland. The formation of a new family. Please listen. When I returned to my sister's hospital room, Caitlin began speaking through tears. She winced in pain as she tried to move her arm with the fork. The white bandages gleamed strangely under the fluorescent lights. Remember the Christmas party 2 years ago? Since then, Michael and I, it started then. The memory of that night comes back vividly. A lively party with company colleagues and family. Catering from Gibson's Bar and Steakhouse. My sister and Michael were talking alone in the kitchen. I didn't think anything of it at the time. Maybe I didn't want to believe it. At first, he was just someone to talk to. When I was vulnerable after my divorce, Michael listened to me, he understood all my feelings. Caitlin's voice trembles. I stood by the window, staring at the rain outside. I remembered my wedding day in Chicago. My sister had smiled happily as my maid of honor. Was that smile already a lie? Before I knew it, we were meeting once a week, and then Michael said he felt real love with me. Real love? I threw the words back coldly. What about Emma? Did you think about her feelings? My sister fell silent. Only the dripping of the floor broke the heavy silence. And Mom and Dad? I asked, interrupting her words. The stern face of my father-in-law, George Watson, flashed through my mind. They found out, about a year ago. Dad saw us and, he was furious at first, but Mom accepted our relationship. Her voice trailed off. From the hallway came the sound of a wheelchair creaking. The night shift nurses could be heard quietly going about their duties. That's enough. I cut her off shortly. There was no need to know more details. Everything was clear. My parents' strange behavior, their excessive protection of my sister, my husband's unnatural kindness. The reason I was taking care of Emma more often. It was all to cover up this twisted truth. Sis, please, forgive me. Don't say anything right now. As I was about to leave the room, a young nurse stopped me. Her eyes showed sympathy. Your parents would like to see you. Their treatment is complete. In the treatment room, my parents sat with apologetic expressions. My father had a bandage on his forehead, and my mother's right arm was in a sling. The two people I once respected now looked pitifully small. April, please listen. My father's voice was so weak it was hard to believe it belonged to the strict high school teacher I once knew. My mother was already crying. We didn't want to hurt your sister. She never recovered after her divorce. When we found out about her relationship with Michael, we opposed it at first. But... so you decided to hurt me instead? My voice sounded colder than I expected. My mother let out a sob. Because you're strong, we thought you could overcome it, successful as a doctor, always calm. Because I'm strong? A laugh escaped me. So it's okay to betray me? Okay to lie? All those times I thought about Emma, the daily pickups and drop-offs, preparing meals, putting her to bed, it was all to protect your lies? Words poured out like waves. I felt my control over my emotions slipping. My medical professional composure crumbled in an instant. Late that night, Michael regained consciousness. In the ICU private room, he stared at me through his oxygen mask. The monitor's light illuminated his pale face. April, please forgive me, let me explain everything about Caitlin. There's no need to explain, I said flatly. As a doctor, I couldn't interfere with a patient's recovery. I told myself that. Check vital signs. Pulse, blood pressure, temperature. All within normal range. Performing my medical duties mechanically. Let's start over, for Emma's sake, for the family. For Emma's sake? I looked straight into his eyes. You people never thought about Emma, did you? Were you planning to play Happy New Family at Disneyland? Without me? Leaving the room, I took out my smartphone. I had already looked up the number of a divorce attorney specializing in these cases. The highest-rated female lawyer in Chicago. I would contact her first thing in the morning. And there was one more important contact I needed to make. The number for Michael's father, George Watson. The owner of a construction company who had financially supported our lifestyle. Known for his strict personality, I needed to report everything to him. His son's betrayal. His granddaughter's situation. The family's collapse. I took the elevator to the floor with the child care facility. Tonight, I would stay here with Emma. Tomorrow, a new life would begin. The life we had until yesterday would never return. Emma was smiling in her dreams. I leaned close to her small sleeping face and gently kissed her. It's okay. I'll protect you. On the morning a week after the accident, I returned to our Maplewood home for the first time. Opening the front door, the familiar scenery spread before me, yet everything felt alien. On the living room wall hung last year's Christmas family photo. Michael and me, our parents, my sister, and Emma. A photo where we played the perfect family. I took down that photo and put it in a cardboard box. From now on, I would need to select only what was necessary for our new life. Mrs. Watson, when would you like to schedule the furniture removal? Jennifer, the real estate agent, stood at the entrance with her tablet. A new home was found faster than expected. 15 minutes by car from Northwestern Memorial Hospital. Close to Emma's daycare. The top floor of a high-rise building. There, we wouldn't be trapped by memories of Maplewood. This weekend, please. Answering simply, I walked to the kitchen. Emma's favorite blueberry yogurt was still in the refrigerator. 2 days until the expiration date. For the past week, Emma had been staying at the hospital's child care facility. Tonight, our new life would begin. Sis. My sister's voice came from behind. She was supposed to be staying at our parents' house after being discharged. Don't come in without permission, I said coldly. Turning around, I saw my sister timidly peering in from the entrance. Her expression reminded me of when she would get scolded for doing something wrong as a child. About Emma. What? Planning to abandon your parental duties again? No. I've started attending a parenting education program. I'm also getting counseling. So what? Please let me try again with Emma. Try again. I gave a cynical smile. After betraying me for 2 years? Just then, my father-in-law George Watson appeared. His stern expression hadn't changed, but he clearly looked tired from the past week. April, we need to talk. Sitting down on the oak living room set, my father-in-law began speaking gravely. He told me about Michael's demotion at work. His transfer from the Chicago branch to Detroit. And then, he made an offer of financial support. You and Emma bear no responsibility for this. I will take responsibility for both of your lives. Thank you, but no need to hold back. This is atonement for my son's sins. Just then, my cell phone rang. It was from Sarah Cohen, the divorce lawyer. Mrs. Watson, there's been progress regarding custody. She said Caitlin was showing willingness to compromise on Emma's custody. She was requesting weekend visitation only. She would also sign documentation acknowledging her history of parental neglect. However, there's one condition. She wants to confirm Emma's own wishes. At those words, I had to close my eyes. Was it right to force such a choice on a 3-year-old? But perhaps this was a necessary process. I understand. I'll talk with Emma. After hanging up, my sister was crying. I won't run away anymore. I'll face this properly. So, just then, the doorbell rang. It was Sarah, my colleague from the hospital, bringing some food. She had been supporting me throughout this past week. April, I've adjusted the new on-call schedule. It's arranged around Emma's pickup times. Sarah's kind words brought tears to my eyes. There were still such warm people around me. Thank you, really. That night, when we arrived at our new home, Emma took my hand. April, is this our new home? Yes, do you like it? From the windows, Chicago's night view spread out before us. The high-rise buildings' lights twinkled like stars. Yes. But, what about Mommy? And Daddy? At her innocent question, I took a deep breath. Emma, what do you want? Do you want to live with Mommy? Or, I want to live with April. It was an immediate answer. In that moment, Emma's small arms wrapped around my neck. Mommy is always gone. But April is always here. I love April. I held Emma tightly. Warm tears rolled down my cheeks. Outside the window, a light spring rain had begun to fall, as if announcing the start of a new season. That night, as I put Emma to bed, I had made up my mind. From now on, we would walk this path together. Though wounded, we would keep moving forward. In the few hours until sunrise, I watched Emma's sleeping face while weaving hopes for tomorrow. Spring came earlier than usual to Chicago. The cityscape visible from the high-rise apartment windows was bathed in soft sunlight. April. Look. Emma runs into the living room holding a picture she drew. She's almost 5 now. She said she drew it at daycare's art class with the theme My Family. Under a large rainbow that fills the paper stand 2 figures holding hands. This is you, April. And this is me. Emma's eyes shine as she explains happily. It's different from that picture from a year ago. Now, it shows our true family. My life at Northwestern Memorial Hospital has also found a new rhythm. I've been promoted to head of pediatrics and entrusted with training residents. In daily practice, I encounter various forms of families. I feel I can now connect more deeply with each of their stories. Dr. Watson, the mother of the patient in room 4, would like to speak with you. Jessica, the resident, calls out to me. She knows about my experience. Many colleagues were awkward around me at first. But now, I feel that experience has become an invaluable asset in building trust with patients. On weekends, Emma visits her sister at scheduled times. Caitlin completed the parenting education program and now volunteers at a childcare support center. Though she may not be a perfect mother, she's trying to move forward step by step. Michael is working in regional development in Detroit. I haven't heard anything about him remarrying. My parents moved to Florida on their friend's recommendation. Sometimes they talk to Emma during Sunday phone calls. But we can't go back to how things were before. Everyone understands that's the price of betrayal. April, we're having a pizza party tonight, right? It's Friday night, which Emma looks forward to. Lisa, another single mother who lives nearby, and her daughter Caitlin are coming over. Meeting other parent-child pairs with similar experiences has helped expand our new community. Time alone doesn't heal wounded hearts. Having friends who understand has been a great support. Want to go somewhere before the party? Emma's eyes light up at my suggestion. We're heading to the Chicago Zoo. My father-in-law gave us an annual pass. He continues to support us even now. Not just financially, but sometimes offering words of encouragement as a life mentor. While watching the penguins at the zoo, Emma suddenly said, "April, you're my mom, right?" I thought for a moment before answering her question. Caitlin gave birth to you. That's an unchangeable fact. But April is my mom. Emma's declaration brought a smile to my face. Blood ties alone don't make a family. This past year has taught me that daily love and trust build true bonds. On our way home, walking through the Twilight City streets, Emma held my hand. The warmth of her small hand touched my heart. April, we'll be together tomorrow and the next day, and forever, right? Yes, of course. That night, after the pizza party quieted down, I stood by the window. Chicago's night view feels warmer than before. The wounds haven't completely healed. Sometimes my chest still tightens when I remember. But that's become part of our story. There have been new encounters too. David from cardiology, whom I met at a pediatric case conference. He understands about me and Emma. There's no need to rush. But maybe someday, I'll find the courage to trust someone again. From Emma's bedroom comes the sound of peaceful breathing. Tomorrow is Saturday. We'll make pancakes for breakfast. With plenty of blueberries on top. Outside the window, a spring breeze gently rustled the street trees, as if announcing the beginning of a new season. Our story continues on.